Look, we are 3 weeks away from the start of spring training. I know, absolutely insane to think about. The Bears may be eliminated, but that means baseball season is nearly upon us. And yet, there is a lot to look forward to with the Cubs, but there are also some question marks remaining on this roster headed into opening day. Primarily, what's the bench going to look like, and who's the fourth outfielder going to be? And you know what? We're going to talk about it right now. You're listening to Second City Sports Talk. Now, if you look at this team's bench as it currently stands, there are some solid options. You, of course, have whoever's not the starting catcher, so Miguel Amaya, Carson Kelly, whoever is not playing. You have Tyler Austin, who is going to be the backup first baseman. He will, in all likelihood, play against left-handed pitching power arms from the left side. We will only see Michael Busch, I would have to assume, against those soft-tossing lefties. Although Craig Counsell did make it sound like he is going to play more against lefties this year. Austin will also play some outfield. You then have Matt Shaw, who lost his job at third base, of course, when the Cubs brought in Alex Bregman. Shaw's going to play some outfield as well, according to Craig Counsell. He is going to be that versatile guy, the Javi Baez of 2016, you could say, on the 2026 Cubs. Very valuable piece. Of course, the Cubs still can make a trade. I do not see the value in trading Matt Shaw. He is way more valuable being that super utility guy. And then you have the battle for the fourth outfield spot. And right now, I believe that spot goes to Kevin Alcantara. Kevin Alcantara was a top prospect on this team. You know, you get him back in the Anthony Rizzo trade. At the time, of course, that was a heartbreaking trade for a lot of Cubs fans. And nowadays, you know, you almost want the prospect, the return package for trading Rizzo, to really pan out and to help out the major league team. So there is that, you could say, validation in having a guy like Kevin Alcantara contribute on the field to the big league team in 2026. But there's a lot of just elements that have to roll here if Kevin Alcantara is going to be successful. He's kind of been stuck in AAA the last year. I mean, he's been in the minor leagues for a while. That trade happened, 4 years ago. Crazy to think at this point. He's been blocked, Owen Casey was that top outfield prospect. But then you also had Kevin Alcantara in AAA. And I know he dealt with injuries. He had up and down seasons in the minor leagues. But now is the time for him to really contribute at the major league level. It's now or never with Alcantara. And I just think that's very risky. You're going to have a guy come up and be expected to, fill the role of that fourth outfield position, something that's very important for a team that was very lucky with their injury health last year. It's hard to sustain that, and you really have to be able to rely on this fourth outfielder to play, in the event that PCA gets hurt. And I think that's just asking a lot of a young guy like Kevin Alcantara to come in and be that guy, if someone gets hurt, to play once a week, twice a week. I just think a team trying to win in 2026 should not be relying on a very much unproven rookie prospect to come in and fill that void, which is why I think the Cubs ought to pursue a veteran bench outfielder. A couple days ago, I actually had a tweet that, was very controversial in the fact that I named one specific player as a great bench option for the Cubs. That was Harrison Bader. Now, I get it. Played for the Cardinals. A lot of Cubs fans have this vendetta for him. I get it. Bader would be a very ideal fit to be that fourth outfielder. Has tons of experience starting in big games. You go back to his time with the Cardinals. He has playoff experience. Very fast in the outfield. Can come up with timely hits. A great veteran presence as well. I don't know if he would take a pay cut to be on the bench. I don't know if he'd want to come off the bench, but I think that is a great, I would say S-tier option to be a bench bat. Mike Tauchman is another name, with the Cubs. 23-24 was a, let's say, pleasant surprise in 2023. 2024 was very solid as well again. Great at bat. I know in 23 and 24 he was at the top of the league in most pitches seen per at bat. Again, though, starting, having a starting job in previous seasons, I don't know if he would take the quote-unquote downgrade the come of the Cubs and be a bench bat, but again, another great option right there. Then have guys like Randall Grichuk and Andrew McCutchen. Again, Andrew McCutchen, notorious Cubs killer. A lot of Cubs fans would have issue with McCutchen being in Cubby Blue. I don't really think that's important. Be a great veteran leader, hits lefties, something this team definitely needs help with. A lot like Randall Grichuk as well. Never going to play against righties, but he is a lefty matcher. I think those are some great names. I also floated around Cody Bellinger, and if Cody Bellinger ended up on this team, I would never say anything bad about Tom Ricketts or Jed Hoyer again. It would cost, we're talking 30 plus million AAV. They could do it. There's probably no chance it happens with the other teams currently in a bidding war for Cody Bellinger, your Yankees, your Mets, no way this happens, but it'd be fun to dream. So I'd say, your Andrew McCutchens, your Harrison Baders, Miguel Andujar, that's another name I've seen floated out there. These are your bench outfield bat options that I think would really fit on this team. And look, it is fun to, play around with a fourth outfield spot, but that is not the main topic of this video. We are 3 weeks away from the start of spring training, meaning that I can finally release my first Cubs roster projection for the 2026 season. Look, there's 26 spots on the roster come opening day. Would probably think they're going to go 12-14, 12 pitchers, 14 position players, or an even split 13-13, and I'm going to break it down right now. Like I just said, very exciting times when you can start projecting a roster. This is the stuff I live for. I'm not a big fan of this front office, all this smoke and mirrors talk about, who could be on this team. I love talking about the baseball part of it. I played baseball all throughout high school. This is the fun stuff, talking about lineups, situational hitting, where people are going to play at certain points in the game, and projecting the roster for the first time this season. This is definitely fun. Now, I do have the Cubs carrying 13 position players and 13 pitchers. Of course, you can only carry 13 pitchers until September call-ups begin on September 1st. And these are the 13 position players I have this team carrying come opening day. I have this team carrying 3 catchers, albeit it really is only 2. Of course, Miguel Amaya and Carson Kelly are going to platoon at the position. I would expect Carson Kelly to start on opening day. You then have Moises Ballesteros, who is going to be this team's emergency catcher. He is not a big league catcher as it stands right now. I saw him last spring, and yes, that was a year ago, but mechanically, he is just not ready to be a big league catcher. You could see him catch on maybe a getaway day or a Sunday just to give the other 2 rest, but right now, he is fundamentally not a big league catcher. He is going to be this team's DH, though, on opening day, and he is going to be getting a majority of those DH starts unless there is a lefty on the mound. If there is a lefty on the mound, you're going to see some combination of Alex Bregman, Matt Shaw, or Tyler Austin. And now, of course, leading into that infield, which is probably the easiest to project, you have Michael Busch, Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, and of course, the new Alex Bregman. Look, this is the easiest to project, like I said. You're going to carry 2 bench options as well, Tyler Austin and Matt Shaw. Shaw is going to be the super utility player. Craig Counsell says he expects him to play all over the field, super valuable in that role. You then have Tyler Austin, who is going to DH a bit, but he will also play some first base when Michael Busch is given an off day, or the off chance that Busch does not get a start against a power lefty arm. Again, Austin mashes lefties, Shaw hits lefties well as well. Those are both bench options who will be very valuable against those southpaws. So, the Cubs are carrying 6 infielders, 3 catchers, meaning there are 4 position player spots available, and those, of course, are going to go to the 4 outfielders. Starting outfield, probably the most sound part of this team. Pete Crow Armstrong in center field, Ian Happ in left field. Seiya Suzuki will move back into right field with the departure of Kyle Tucker. And then you have the 4th outfield spot. Right now it's Kevin Alcantara on paper. The Cubs did sign Austin Dean a couple days ago. He is on the 40-man. Would expect another big league addition to compete with Kevin Alcantara for that fourth outfield spot. And right now, that is this team's offense. On paper, probably an improvement from 2025. I think Alex Bregman is a better scheme fit. I know it's not football, but Bregman is a better fit for this team offensively than Kyle Tucker. That's a sound group right there. 13 solid players. Now we're going to talk about pitching. Now, pitching is infinitely more difficult to predict, especially this early into the new year. But the easiest part is going to be the rotation. Of course, Justin Steele, he's going to be out till most likely, I would say, late May, early June. At least that's what it sounds like. Steele did come out and say that he was ahead of schedule with his throwing program, but still expect the Cubs ace to miss some time before the season starts. And these are the 5 starting pitchers who I have making this team come opening day. Should be no surprises here. You have Matthew Boyd, Cade Horton, Edward Cabrera, Jameson Taillon, and Shota Imanaga. After that, there are definitely some debates, that could be brought up about who is going to be in this Cubs bullpen. Now, I think 6 of the 8 reliever spots on this team are pretty locked up at this point. You have Colin Ray, who is being paid about $5.5 million. He is not getting, he's not getting DFA'd. He would only get traded. He is going to be on this team come opening day, barring a trade, like I said. You then have Hunter Harvey, Holby Milner, Phil Maton, Caleb Thielbar, and Daniel Palencia. Again, these are all relievers who are expected to contribute at a high level in 2026. Palencia was the closer in 25. No guarantee he's the closer in 26. You could see a Phil Maton, Caleb Thielbar, any or in between fill that role. You could even see a guy like Hunter Harvey pop up as this team's closer. Again, really early to determine that. Craig Counsell never likes naming a closer. It could be closer by committee, but some combination of those 6 names will make up this team's bullpen come opening day, which leaves us with those final 2 spots. Now, I do think Jacob Webb, who was another major league signing, will make this bullpen. I didn't put him in the guaranteed list because he is not set to make as much money as those 6 other relievers, but still, I think it's pretty safe to say he will make this team, which leaves one spot, which, I do think this one spot is going to be wide open entering camp. I have it with Porter Hodge right now. I think Porter Hodge is the safe pick for the 8th and final bullpen spot. Has some of the best stuff. We thought Hodge was going to be the closer entering 2025. We guessed wrong. He had a bit of a nightmare season, but still has a very high upside, has velocity, something this pen does need and lacks at the same time. But outside of Porter Hodge, I think there are a lot of question marks surrounding who could take that final spot in the bullpen. There are a couple of very intriguing options for that 8th and final bullpen spot, particularly a lot of non-roster invitee candidates who could swoop in and take that 8th spot over Porter Hodge. First, though, you have guys like Luke Little and Ben Brown. Luke Little hasn't really been given the chance at the major league level. When he has, though, very inconsistent play. In his cup of tea in 2025, he came in against the Padres, could not throw a strike to save his life, and that's just been the story of his major league career. He's kind of stuck in purgatory between AAA and the major league level. Great numbers in Iowa, just has not been able to find his command, though, at the major league level. Luke Little, like I said, ultra talented, just has not put it together. You then have Ben Brown, who I think is being used as trade bait right now. I think the Cubs have more or less given up on him as a starter at this point. Very inconsistent. He only has 2 pitches. He tries to be like Justin Steele, but in reality probably needs that 3rd pitch. Steele may only have 2 pitches, but he can manipulate those grips and really make it more like 4 different pitches. Brown, there have been rumors that Brown is being turned into that high leverage, low volume reliever. You could see it happen. I do expect to see him out of the pen a lot this spring. Could be in there, could be a candidate to take that 8th and final spot, but I do think the Cubs are using him as trade bait. And then you have 4 non-roster invitees. You have guys like Corbin Martin, who I think the Cubs view a lot like Brad Keller 2.0. These are all tread athletic guys. Tyler Zombro, who was promoted within the Cubs front office to being, at the top in their pitching ranks. And look, Zombro has done wonders for this team. The Cubs and Tread Athletics have really built this strong bond over the last year or two. The Cubs are first in line to get these reclamation project relievers, and guys like Corbin Martin, Jeff Brigham, Colin Snyder, and Trent Thornton, who just signed with the Cubs a matter of hours ago. These are guys, these are reclamation project relievers that the Cubs, have had a good success rate with. Look at Brad Keller. He was a tread athletic guy. He was a guy that Tyler Zombro wanted to work with. And you know what? It is a great connection. It is a great pipeline to build good bullpens. It would not surprise me if one of those 4 relievers, swooped in and took that final bullpen spot. Maybe even Jacob Webb's spot in this pen come opening day. But that is the fun of spring training. Seeing the competition in the bullpen. What are these final 2 to 3 spots going to look like? And guys like the 4 I just mentioned, even Ben Brown and Luke Little to a certain extent, could have a huge spring and really make a difference. Again, it is a fun and exciting time when you can talk about lineups, roster projections, even a 4th outfield battle. It means spring training is coming. Hope springs eternal. It is nearly time to watch and play baseball again. And that is where we are right now, guys. Thank you for watching. I have a lot of spring training content coming your way. But until then, I'm Wyatt Ballmeyer, and I'll see you later.